Let's dive into what's been going on with the weather. It's about to get even crazier for the rest of January. We're looking at several more waves of cold air sweeping through the United States, which means temperatures are going to stay absolutely frigid for many regions. On top of that, we're expecting more snowfall in several areas, and there's even the potential for another significant winter storm to develop in the coming weeks. In today's video, I'm going to break down everything you need to know about the weather patterns shaping up for the rest of this month, starting with what's happening right now. This morning, we're still dealing with a historic winter storm that's hammering parts of the Southeast, including the Carolinas, Georgia, and even Florida. Yes, you heard that right. Florida. Heavy snow, freezing rain, and sleet are continuing along the East Coast, making travel and daily life extremely challenging in areas that typically don't deal with winter weather like this. This storm is leaving a massive impact across the Southeast, and honestly, it's one for the record. Just a few days ago, we talked about how many records might be broken with this storm, and the results are in. The numbers are shocking, with dozens of records completely shattered. But before we get into the details, hit the subscribe button, like this video, and leave your thoughts in the comments. Thank you for your support. Let me give you an example of just how historic this storm has been. We're in Milton, Florida. 8 inches of snow fell in a single day. That's the most snow ever recorded in Florida's history for a single day, completely obliterating the previous record. For New Orleans, nearly 10 inches of snow fell in a day, breaking the old record of 2.7 inches set way back in 1963. These are huge milestones for areas that rarely see snow, let alone at this magnitude. And that's just the tip of the iceberg. There are countless other records broken across the region, but those two are some of the most notable. Behind this storm, we're seeing a powerful surge of cold air moving in. This cold air is bringing strong winds that are keeping temperatures extremely low all along the East Coast. Let's take a look at the radar this morning. You can see snow still falling across parts of the Carolinas and Georgia. Jacksonville is dealing with freezing rain and sleet, and there's even a slight chance for snow in Jacksonville over the next couple hours. However, this storm is quickly moving offshore, and by lunchtime today, it'll all be over. So if you're hoping for more snow out of this system, this is your last chance. There's only a few hours of action left before it's gone. Here's a look at the snowfall accumulation map, which shows just how much snow this storm has dumped across the Southeast. Those orange dots you see represent areas with at least 8 inches of snow, and there are a lot of them. Places like Lafayette, Louisiana report over 10 inches of snow, and Pensacola, Florida, wasn't far behind with totals nearing 9 inches. Milton, Florida is leading the way with 8 inches, and those numbers might even go up slightly as final measurements come in. It's absolutely incredible to see totals like this in areas that usually don't see any snow at all. Now, I know a lot of you are wondering, when will all this snow start to melt? Well, the good news is that temperatures are climbing above freezing across much of the Southeast today, so we'll start to see significant melting in the next 24 hours. By tomorrow, most of the snow in Louisiana and surrounding areas will be completely gone, except for maybe some shaded spots or elevated surfaces. Along the East Coast, the snow might stick around for an extra day, but by Friday, it should mostly be a thing of the past. So what's next? The weather pattern for the rest of January is shaping up to look very different from what we've seen recently. Right now, the jet stream is dipping south, which is what's helping to drive snow and cold air across the East Coast. But as we head into the weekend, we'll see a major shift. Warm air is going to start building across the Gulf Coast and Southeast, leading to a much milder weather pattern for those areas. However, the West Coast is a different story. Troughs will continue to develop there, bringing more storms and much needed moisture, which is great news for areas dealing with drought. Early next week, we might see a small disturbance bringing some snow to the Midwest or Southern plains. But at this point, it doesn't look like anything major. If another big winter storm does develop, it's likely to happen closer to the end of the month, somewhere around January 29th to 31st. Of course, things can change as we get closer, so we'll keep an eye on the models and update you as needed. Now, let's talk about the longer-term outlook. The GFS model is hinting at the possibility of another winter storm forming in early February, but keep in mind that's over 10 days out. Forecasting this far in advance comes with a lot of uncertainty, so take it with a grain of salt. What we do know is that temperatures are going to continue fluctuating. Another blast of cold air is expected to arrive tomorrow across the Great Plains and Midwest, spreading eastward into the weekend. But by next week, we'll see a return to warmer than average temperatures for much of the country, especially in the Gulf Coast and Southeast. Now, let's talk about the 6 to 10 day temperature outlook. It's showing exactly what I've been talking about. After a long period of cooler than normal temperatures, we're starting to see some warmth return. If you've been watching these updates for a while, you'll know that it's been a while since we've seen a lot of red or yellow on the map for the eastern half of the country. But over the next week, we're expecting to see plenty of warm air making its way into the upper Midwest, northern plains, and even the Gulf states, areas that just saw a historic snow event. I mean, they broke records for snowfall in places like New Orleans and even parts of Houston, with some areas in the Florida Panhandle getting close to 10 inches or maybe even more in certain spots. That's just mind-blowing, isn't it? Where I am in Virginia, we ended up getting about 3.5 inches of snow, and I was honestly happy with that. It's the most snow I've seen in the past few years, and it was just enough to make everything look pretty without causing too much disruption. It was the perfect amount of snow for me. Looking at the outlook for the next couple of weeks, we're seeing below normal temperatures in the west, which is kind of a change of pace from what we've been seeing all winter. This suggests that we're likely going to have a bit of a negative Pacific North American pattern, which tends to push warm air into the eastern parts of the country. We might see some colder temperatures making their way into the Northeast, thanks to a backdoor cold front. So that's something to watch out for. As for precipitation, it's looking more favorable for the southern half of the country, especially the mid-Atlantic and southeast. Areas like the Midwest, Great Lakes, Ohio Valley, and Northeast are likely to see more traditional snowfall over the next couple of weeks. So for those of you in the northern parts of the country, get ready. Things are about to ramp up. Here, I've been focusing a lot on the South in my past updates, and I've received quite a few comments asking why I've been doing that. The reason is simple. There was just more action happening in the South. But things are starting to change now. So I want to turn our attention to the 8 to 14 day outlook. This one provides a broader perspective, and it's looking more dramatic than the previous outlook. It still shows a warm up for the plains, Midwest, and eastern parts of the country, with the Northeast holding on to some of that cold air. This outlook covers the period from January 30th to February 5th. So we could be closing out January and starting February on a warmer note. We've been talking about this for weeks, so it shouldn't be too surprising to see that the major cold doesn't look like it's going to stick around during this time frame. But don't worry, we still have a few more days of our current cold spell to get through, so we'll see how that plays out. As for the precipitation outlook, we're seeing a bit more favorable conditions for northern snowfall events during this time. While temperatures won't be massively above normal in those areas, higher precipitation levels combined with the cold could lead to some significant snowfall. The Pacific Northwest is also expected to see more snowfall. So that's good news for the ski resorts out there. And the longer range outlook for the next 3 to 4 weeks just came out a few days ago. And it suggests that we'll be seeing the Southeast Ridge dominate in the first half of February, with colder conditions across the northern plains and upper Midwest. While this outlook is a little bit outdated, I still think it's a solid prediction. There's enough evidence to suggest it's going to be accurate. As for precipitation, it's looking pretty typical for ALA Nina pattern, with storms moving through the Great Lakes and Midwest and possibly off the East Coast. A lot of the Southeast and South Central regions are likely to stay dry. Looking ahead to early February, it's looking pretty similar. The Southeast Ridge will still be in place, but by the time we hit February 1st, we'll get a new rendition of this outlook. So things could shift a little, but for now, that's the expected pattern. The four corner states in the South Central region are expected to be warmer than usual, while the Northwest and North Central states will be colder. Precipitation looks to follow the same general trend, with more stormy conditions in the north and drier conditions in the South. This isn't a huge surprise. It's a pretty typical outlook for the first part of February. For the seasonal temperature outlook for February, March, and April, so the last month of winter and the first 2 months of spring, I'd be happy with this. I can't stand it when winters are warm, but we're left with cold springs. We didn't have a warm winter this year, but it's been brutal enough that I'm really hoping for a mild spring, especially in March and April. A traditional spring pattern would be great to see. The eastern states and the Gulf Coast should see some warmer temperatures, while the cold will mostly be confined to the Northwest. Precipitation will likely be stormy across the traditional storm tracks like the Midwest, Ohio Valley, and Northeast, but with drier conditions in the Southeast and South Central parts of the country. Let's take a quick look At the temperature trends over the past 20 days. From January 2nd to the 22nd, we've seen some extremely cold temperatures across the plains, Midwest, Gulf states, Ohio Valley, Mid-Atlantic, and Southeast. Many areas have been running 7 to 10, even 15 degrees below normal for this entire stretch. It's been one of the coldest Januaries in these regions for quite some time, and it's been hard to average temperatures that low over such a long period. It's wild to think about how cold it's been. So what's coming up next? Well, tomorrow, Thursday, there's a slim chance of some snow in parts of the southern half of the country, including the Delmarva, Eastern Virginia, and North Carolina. There's a weak low pressure system offshore that could bring some light to moderate snow, maybe half an inch in some areas. It's not a major storm, but it's worth mentioning. We also had some bay effect snow today across the Chesapeake Bay area, and I wouldn't be surprised to see more of that tomorrow evening. The National Weather Service has mentioned that as well, so it's something to watch. Friday will still be cold for most of the country, especially the east, but we'll start to see a warming trend along the west, and that will gradually move eastward over the coming days. Saturday will be a fairly uneventful day weather-wise. Temperatures will be closer to normal in many parts of the country, and there won't be any major storms to talk about, although there will still be some snow showers in the Rocky Mountains and Sierra Nevada. By Sunday, we could start to see some showers and thunderstorms in areas that recently got a lot of snow, like Texas and Louisiana. The Southwest could also see a storm system, which is definitely needed after everything they've been dealing with in terms of fires. We'll see some more snow for the Sierra Nevada mountains as well. That's always a good thing for them, especially during a La Nina winter. Looking ahead to Monday, the warm air will continue to spread eastward, with cooler temperatures still lingering in the east. We'll also see some snowfall near the Canadian border and across parts of northern Minnesota, the Great Lakes, and the Northeast, along with a little cold blast moving in. Tuesday, January 28th, will bring some more snow to the Northeast, and we'll continue to see snow in Colorado and New Mexico. By Wednesday, the 29th, we'll see another round of snow in the Midwest and Northeast, along with some more thunderstorms in the Southeast. All in all, it looks like we'll continue to see a revolving door pattern with periods of warm-ups and cold fronts, potentially leading to some big snowstorms and severe weather in the coming weeks. Stay tuned for updates because things could change quickly as we head into February.